All right. Welcome back. My name is Curtis. I'm with Goodwill Columbus Work and Community Services, and today's topic is conflict resolution. You would think after 3 weeks of doing this, I would be a pro, but I still learn as we go along. I've got the screen up that I wanted, and this is where we're going. So hopefully, the one individual I had will find their way back. Um, Today's discussion is in regards to conflict resolution, and it's more specifically, one of the key components of conflict resolution is communication. And as I started this slideshow, I was going to just jump right into conflict resolution, and it's one of those where you start working along and then you notice that communication plays a big part in resolving conflicts with peers and coworkers and managers and employees. That I felt we could do this in two parts, and today we're just going to discuss about communication. So, as we go along this morning, please, if you have any questions, to ask, and we are going to just chug along and learn about what our communication and our body language says for us instead of what we might be trying to say. So, learning outcomes for today, we're going to focus on communication. What are the top 10 communication skills, and how does your body language affect communication? Next week, we will learn conflict resolution and what are the 5 types of conflict resolution and how to resolve conflicts. Communication. What are the top 10 communication skills? All right, communication skills are the skills that we have that help us communicate effectively with everybody. And knowing them is great, but being able to put them into practice is even better. I've gone over this with a few groups before, and we've had some pretty good success. And some of them have really taken to being more open with their communication, which is great, which is part of what we're trying to do. So let's just move along. Listening. It is number one on the top 10 list. Yes, I'm going in the number one, the number 10. Um, but they're all very important to have. So it's not really so much as one's more important over the other. They all group together work wonders. But listening by far is you can't communicate if you are not listening to the person that's talking with you. Active listening involves paying close attention to what the other person is saying, maintaining eye contact, repeating back what is said, what is called reflective listening, to show that you understand what is being said. You may be talking to somebody and they're talking to you and telling them about their day, and what you kind of want to do is, if I'm hearing you correctly, you are saying such and such and such. And kind of reflect back and use keywords on what they were saying. And that shows the person that you were actually listening to what they were saying. And that's going to be your biggest victory right there, is just being able to repeat back what they are talking about. Our nonverbal. What we mean by nonverbal is our body language, our eye contact, our hand gestures, and tone. Keeping a relaxed, open stance with their arms open, legs relaxed, and a friendly tone helps. You definitely want to learn how to control your body when you're talking to somebody. You don't want to stand there talking to somebody with your arms folded across your chest and tapping your foot. That's not showing that you're paying attention. It's showing that you are tense. You don't care what this person is saying, and with your foot tapping is you're waiting for this conversation to be over. You are not communicating effectively. Whereas if you would stand there, your arms, kind of down to your side, but your hands open and out, um, feet relaxed, nice straight body posture, and making eye contact with that person, they're going to feel like they are being listened to. Clarity and concision, our CNC, not to be confused with CNC Music Factory. That's a totally different thing. But clarity and concision, you want to be able to state the message as clearly with as little words as possible. Too many words or mumbling will confuse people and cause them to either lose interest or feel slighted. I know I can be just as wordy as the next person, but you definitely want to try to get your message across with as little words as possible. I know some individuals may deal with ADD or ADHD, and the more words you give them, the less likely it is that they're going to be listening to you. So you definitely want to get your message across with as little words as possible. Friendliness. I don't know how many times it helps to just have a nice tone, ask a pleasant question, or even a smile, and demonstrating friendliness. Being polite is important in face-to-face communication. Who wants to talk with a person who's got a scowl on their face all day long? Not me. You definitely want to present, that you are friendly, that you are approachable, because friendliness leads to being approachable by someone else, makes them feel comfortable, in talking to you. And this doesn't always work. Some people say that I remind them of somebody in their past that, was a firm figure in their life that they were intimidated by. And just me standing there as open and as friendly as possible still makes them feel intimidated. Sometimes I have to use a friendly tone and try to open the conversation up in a way in which they feel more relaxed in talking to me. But friendliness, it goes both ways. You can show friendliness by listening, but you can also show friendliness when you're talking to somebody as well. Confidence. Now, if you haven't had a chance, go back and watch my video on the 6 pillars of confidence. Being confident in your communication shows your coworkers that you believe in what you are saying. Eye contact, nice tone, not sounding arrogant or aggressive will help people feel you will follow through with what you were saying. I got a little confused with what I had worded there. So if you're confident, that confidence will come through in how you are talking with people, and that's going to help grow your communication skills. Because I'll tell you what, if someone's talking to me and they're not confident in what they're saying, I'm not listening as well as I should be. So people who are confident in what they're saying are able to express their words across effectively, and it really draws people in to listen to them. All right, moving on here. Uh-oh. Empathy. Empathy is the understanding of where your coworker is coming from while actively listening. You're respecting their opinions, even if you disagree with them, using phrases like, I understand where you are coming from. Empathetic listening is very key in helping to see the other person's point of view. Now, we all have our own point of view. We see things through what's called our own lens. That's very important when you're talking with somebody, is that you're hearing what they're saying, but you're looking at it through your lens and your experience and your knowledge. But empathy means that you're looking at it through their lens, their experience, their knowledge. You may not have to completely understand what they're saying or where they're coming from, but you got to be able to promote that you're willing to try to understand and try to see it from their point of view. It doesn't mean you agree with them. It just means that you're giving them that attention and making them feel that way. Open-mindedness. Having a flexible, open mind. Be open to listening to and understanding their point of view rather than trying to force your own message across. There's been times when I've spoken with coworkers and employees and bosses where they're so adamant about what they're saying that they're going to continue hammering home a point that nobody's listening to. They don't have an open-mindedness about them. They're not flexible enough to see what it is the other person is saying, that they're missing out on that part of the conversation. Again, that goes back to empathy, and even if you disagree, you can agree to disagree. That's fine. You still have to keep an open mind to what they're saying. Respect. Use the person's name. Maintain eye contact and active listening are all signs of respect. Using them together will make a person feel respected. Staying focused on the person and the conversation shows respect. It's hard, the main theory that a lot of people live their life by is that if you show me respect, I'll show you respect. That's not how respect works. Respect works, you give respect and in return get respect back. If somebody's not respecting you, that's on them, that's not you. You still have to maintain your level of respect for other people, because that should be, one of your key ideals and morals in life is being respectful. And that plays a big part in communication and in resolving conflicts. If you can't show any respect or demonstrate respect, how are you ever going to expect other people to show you respect or give you respect? Feedback. It is important to appropriately give and receive feedback from people. Peers, coworkers, bosses, employees. Be constructive in what you say to a person, but don't be critical. You can say, hey, you're doing a great job. If you do, I see you're doing it this way. If you try to do it this way a little bit, you're going to see a much better result. That's given some, constructive feedback to a person. Give praise to people. But you also have to be gracious to accept feedback from others. Some people are closed off. They feel that any kind of feedback that's not positive is an automatic slight against their person, against their being, against their, so many different examples that I could give that I won't, because I don't want to call people out. But it's important to be able to not only give appropriate feedback, but to take appropriate feedback as well. You got to be open to it. And that's huge, especially when you're trying to resolve a conflict, is you're trying to get in and get that feedback from that person to see where they're at. Or maybe you're saying something to them that they don't appreciate. But if you're not open to hearing that feedback, then it's not going to work. And picking a correct medium. Whether your conversation is face-to-face, whether it's a phone call or an email or even text message, you need to know what the correct medium is in having a conversation. Say you're doing face-to-face. If you see that a person is busy talking to someone else or busy with a task that they've been assigned to do, come back at another time rather than hovering and staring. Nothing is more annoying to a person than when they're trying to have a conversation and there's somebody standing 2 to 3 feet away from them, just staring at them, waiting for them to engage them in a conversation. I'm busy in a conversation right now. You can say, excuse me, when you have a moment, can you come see me, and then walk away? That would be great. Don't just take a step back. And then you can also take that opportunity while you're waiting for that person to finish up their other conversation or task. Write out your thoughts first. Get them in order before having a conversation. Getting yourself and your thoughts organized is a good communication skill. And that'll help you determine whether you should have this conversation face to face, whether you should put it in an email or call the person. So, next part of communication is body language. What does our body language say? Facial expressions. Oh, there are so many facial expressions. And just remember, your face is more about what you are saying than what you are actually saying. A lot of people will say that I wear my expressions on my sleeve. Um, or my face says everything that I'm not saying. You know, people will tell me that they can just look at my face and know what I am saying or thinking. Excuse me. Gave up caffeine the wrong week. Um, you could be saying that you are happy, but you have a scornful look on your face. If I'm gritting my teeth and through a clenched jaw say I'm happy, you're not really happy. You're pretty angry or upset over something. Maybe you're afraid to tell someone that you don't understand what they are saying, but your face has already told that person the same thing. Um, and it could even reveal if you're paying attention or not. There's quite a few different ways that your face can reveal whether you are actively listening, whether you've already checked out, whether you're staring off into space. Who knows? There's so many different ways that our face and the faces of the people that we are talking with says so much. And just knowing how to understand what they're actively doing with their face can help you know whether they are paying attention or not. Maybe they've got this look on their face like that person just doesn't look happy. So, maybe checking in on them and saying, talking, asking them questions about their day could help change that, could help soften their facial expressions, engaging them in ways that would make them know that you are interested. Likewise, if you see them with this mean look on their face, that's probably a good sign that shows they're not really approachable right now. You should come back at another time. And again, if you're explaining something and you think you're doing a good job and you look at their face and they've got this look on their face like they have no idea what you were talking about, maybe this is a point in the conversation where you go back and check and see if you're being clear and concise with your message. Have you explained this stuff with so many words that it's hard for anybody to follow? That could be your first hint right there. Your body. So, has your body ever acted like these? I know mine has. You know, Number one would be your uh, neutral stance, where you're kind of open and listening. And then it just goes from there. You know, waving hello, arms crossed. Are you the one where you're standing on your soapbox like number seven, trying to tell it like it is? You try and tell somebody to calm down. Do you feel overwhelmed and you see a person coming towards you, so you kind of lower your head and put your arms up in the oh no stance like number 10? Or are you so nervous you really don't want anybody to come talk to you at all, and you're like number 12 and like, God, please don't come talk to me. I can't deal with it today. You know, which one of these do you feel is listening more than others? If you guessed 1 and 12, you are a winner. Why? Because they're the same ones. I'm just noticing that myself. If you said 4, why wouldn't 4 be a good body language to have when you're talking with somebody? Number 4 kind of looks like he just wants to get out of the conversation. He's got his hand in his pocket, his legs perched and ready to start walking away. He looks like he's checked out. He wants to get out of here. All right. Good job, guys. All right. Are these body language poses any different? There's a couple extra ones in here. I know I've probably had every single one of these poses. So, reading nonverbal body language. Here are some examples with descriptions of what your body might be telling someone else. And that's what body language is. It's what you don't say that counts. Now, you may agree or disagree. I may agree or disagree. It doesn't, it's okay to feel differently about some of these poses stuff. Um, Crossed off limbs could mean anywhere from not being open to communicate to being aggressive. Um, Wearing shades when you're talking to somebody. What are you hiding? Why are you hiding behind shades? Um, and a forward aggressive stance could be menacing to someone, not being relaxed and in your own personal space. Um, Hands on the hips. I know some people, this is a natural body move for them, but some people can take it as being defensive about something. What do you mean? That's what you're saying. You know, you got to be aware of these things that you may feel one way about your body language and what it's saying, but someone else could be taken completely different. So knowing what ways people can look at your body and interpret what they think you might be saying is just as important. It's confusing, I know. What about that guy in the back right? He's kind of got that arrogant look on his face, and it kind of makes you feel like you think you're stupid. Um, Hands in the pocket, impatient to leave, not really open to communication. You know, so these are all different types of ways in which people can see you and how they feel you are communicating, but it's also ways that you can communicate on how you're feeling as well. Have you spoken with someone who is standing like this? I know I've spoken to a lot of people standing in all those different poses and more. There is power in the pose. There have been studies done to show that how a person poses will either demonstrate a powerful appearance or a subordinate appearance, what they call the high power pose or the low power pose. High power pose is, when you're standing, your feet are shoulder width apart, and your hands at your side. Back up straight, shoulders back, the arms raised in a V above the head. Just like in the one research that I was reading and doing, that animals, what they do when they're trying to assert dominance over other species or other, you know, of their peers, they build themselves up. Monkeys spread their arms out wide. Birds will spread their feathers. Cats even will arch their back and puff out their hair and tails to appear bigger. So when you're raising your arms up in a V above the head, that's essentially what you're doing, is you're creating this larger than life persona and trying to assert power over somebody else. Hands on the hip, huge power pose. Like we talked about previously, it's like, you know, people are, it could be aggressive. It could be, I am Superman and I'm going to stand here and just ooze power everywhere. Arms crossed behind the head, sitting or standing. Um, Again, that just goes with the stretching yourself out, and you don't feel threatened at all. So you're going to sit in kind of a dominant pose, hands on your head, because you are that comfortable in life. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the lower power poses. You know, sitting with hands folded in the lap. That's showing kind of a demure submission. Um, or about arms crossed over the chest. But see how he's kind of sitting down, his feet are kind of sticking out. It shows that he's listening, but not, not trying to assert power dominance over anybody. One arm across the body and a half hug. It's really hard to see with a shadow. So I can only imagine if one arm is sitting across and the other one's kind of holding the hand, or if you're holding your arm with your other hand across your chest. That's kind of, it doesn't promote power. Um, it just kind of makes you look submissive. Hunching. Hunching is huge. I know that I spent many a day in kindergarten way, way back. I won't tell you when. I want you to know how old I am, but working on posture, not slumping the shoulders, keeping your shoulders back, your back arched, balancing a book on my head. Oh, I hated those days, mainly because I think that my head was too pointy for a book to sit on. Um, but hunching, being slouched, does not promote power. Um, and these are all things that lead into that. If you don't feel powerful, you can learn the power poses and give off a power vibe that will build your confidence. Um, you don't have to come off submissive all the time. You can come off in a power pose. Sorry, we're getting paged here. All right. There's times and places for these types of poses. Um, if someone's telling you an emotional story and of something that's really concerning to them, you don't want to have a high power pose. You want to have more of a low power pose to show that you're listening to them. That's why you'll see a lot of counselors that'll sit there with their hands folded in their lap, um, because it means that the power is going to the person telling the story, and that's what you want to do when somebody's trying to reveal something that's really bothering them. On the other end of the spectrum, there are times when you need to have a high power pose when you are trying to motivate people or trying to talk to them, especially if they're subordinate to you. You know, you want to try to have an appropriate high power pose, because that's going to betray confidence and it's going to inspire those people that you're talking with to get them to work better. Um, so, which one of these poses best describes you? That's good. Very nice. Proper body language poses. So whether you are sitting or standing, knowing how to pose your body will let the person you are speaking with know whether you are listening or not. Let's see, you're sitting there with your arms crossed and your legs crossed versus sitting more open, with your arms on the arm rests of the chair and your legs kind of, your feet are spread shoulder width apart. Um, that shows, you're listening more than the lady there. Let's see if you'll see my, so we're talking up in here. So this is all closed off, and this guy's more open. About over here. I'd be more comfortable talking with this guy. I'd feel like I was being yelled at by this guy here. So he's listening. He's not listening. So, and this kind of, goes a little bit further too. Like, if your arms, they say arms akimbo. That's an old timey term for you, akimbo. So that's your shoulders are out, or your elbows. These are your elbows are out, and your hands are on your hips. You're establishing dominance, or you're communicating that there are issues. Likewise, on the opposite, arms behind the back says don't draw near, keeps people at bay. So it really just promotes that, you don't want people in your personal space, and that's fine. But it also doesn't really convey that you're listening. It just shows that you're kind of concerned about where people are located at around you. So your body will also tell whether you are approachable or if there's an issue that needs to be dealt with. So, how can you improve your body language? Well, you can sit and practice in a mirror by yourself, and that will help you improve on your body language. You can even kind of pause the video here, and you can practice some of these poses. Now, if we start up in the upper left-hand corner, there, hard to see that white cursor in the white background. You've got openness versus defensiveness. The people on the left are open to the conversation. The people on the right are being defensive. And the next one's down, evaluation versus suspicion. Are you evaluating what the person is saying, or are you suspicious that what they're saying is a lie? That one might be a tough one to practice, but we can do that here at the workshop. Readiness versus boredom, the next one down. Someone who is relaxed, maybe even leaning forward a little bit, shows that they're ready and listening, versus someone who's kind of leaning back, their chin or their face is sitting on their hand, elbows resting on their other hand or on the desk, shows that they're bored and they're not really listening. Expectancy versus frustration. Are they expectantly waiting what you have to say? Hands folded in the lap, leaning forward a little bit, versus frustration. Scratching their head is one thing. And this is also, look on their face. If they, eyebrows raised like, are you sure you're saying that? That could be frustration. And you got self-control versus nervousness. Having self-control means that you are in control of what your body is doing and what your body is saying. Nervousness means that you're not sitting still. You might be shaking your leg, which I've been guilty of from time to time. Fidgeting with your hands. These are all things that show nervousness. And then confidence versus insecurity. See the difference between these two? Confidence, you're sitting up, back is straight, legs are open, or even just, I guess if she's sitting down, she's in kind of a power pose. Versus insecurity. You're kind of like sheltering your body from a perceived threat. You're very insecure with how you're looking. So those are things that you want to practice the difference between. So practice those in the mirror, and then once you get comfortable enough with how you're presenting your body language. If you have a friend or staff that you trust, practice with them next. And then after you get to a point where, your friend or staff saying, yeah, I think you got it, start putting your new body language to work and use it with other people. Beware of body language pitfalls. So there are 9 horrible body language habits that are hard to quit. Number one, fidgeting. It is very hard to overcome, especially for a person who may not have control over it. It can be distracting to the person talking and disrupt the conversation. You got to find ways to figure out how to not fidget. I know with my son, when he was first learning how to do public speaking for his oral reports in class, he had a tendency to kind of fidget with his feet. He would, you know, his whole body would sway back and forth as he fidgeted with his feet. And he really had to work hard at trying to focus on something for the time being while he was giving his speech or his report, and then he could go back to his desk and get his fidgets all out. I know we discussed this previously in our interview basics class, that maybe exercising ahead of time or doing something to exert some energy can help lower that fidgeting ability, or that need to fidget, not fidgeting ability. That's kind of goofy. So those are things that you really want to be aware of. If you're aware that you fidget and that there's no way to control it, then you got to find a way to remove it from the equation. Either if you're sitting at a desk, keep your hand under the table and use a fidget spinner or something quiet that you can fidget with, that's the other person's not going to see or hear. The number 2 one, playing with your hair. It's distracting to the person trying to have a conversation with you and always tells the other person you were not listening. I like how she made a mustache with her hair. I don't think I've ever had hair long enough to do that. Uh, I, for one, don't like to see people play with their hair. I've seen all types. I've seen the hair twirlers. I've seen one person was eating the end of their hair, which makes me gag. And then others, just shows that you're just not actively listening at all to what I have to say. So you really want to avoid playing with your hair. One way to do this, put it up in a ponytail or pin it back so that way it's not around your face. Just try to get it away from where you will know that you're going to play with it. Number 3, being defensive is telling the other person you are not open to what they are saying. If you constantly find yourself adopting a defensive pose, you may want to start working and practicing on other poses you can do. Learn to stand, with your feet shoulder width apart and your hands at your side. Try to really be conscious of the fact that your arms might cross. Why are they crossing? Are you cold? Put on a sweater. Are they crossed because you don't know what else to do with them? Then ask around, what else can you do with your hands that's going to make you more approachable? Because if you're already in a defensive pose, you're going to change the tone of that conversation where the person talking isn't going to feel like, one, you're listening, or two, that you're even going to be empathetic to what they have to say and see things from their point of view. Number 4, shuffling your feet. Wow. Foot shufflers are a different species altogether. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I used to get yelled at as a child if I was shuffling my feet. And now it bothers me if somebody is walking with me and they're shuffling their feet, or they're standing there listening to me and they're shuffling their feet. It really distracts me. Pick up your feet and walk. The swish, swish, swish of feet shuffling makes people think you are so lazy that you can't even. It's all about appearance. It's body language. People see that and they're going to think all sorts of things. It's not like you got to pick up and march and stomp your feet. That's not what I'm saying, but you only got to pick your feet up, half an inch off the floor to keep it from swishing on the ground. Plus, it makes a lot of noise. Number 5, smile. I think they put a picture of Kanye West in here. Um, don't forget your facial expressions. Don't forget to smile. It doesn't have to be a big eyes popping open, big cheesy grin that makes somebody feel like you're gonna murder them, or that you're up to no good, or that you're being playful. But just a nice casual smile can help lower the tension of a room, can help make the person feel respect and that you actually are showing empathy towards them. It just shows that you're a kind enough person that you can smile. Um, and it's hard for a lot of people. Some people have faces that just promote themselves to an eternal frown, or just in their relaxed state looks mean. And that might not be who they are, but being aware of what your face is doing and knowing that you have to think about smiling in order to do it. It might not be a reflex, but it has to be something that you got to think about. Number 6, appearing distracted. If you appear to be distracted, number one example, playing on your phone, then the person talking with you probably feels like you were not listening. Young kids these days, they seem to be able to multitask, or they say that they can. Like my son will be on his laptop playing a game while simultaneously watching a YouTube video on his phone, uh, and listening to it in his earphones, and watching the television show that the rest of the family is watching during dinner time. Oh, and he's eating too, so he's doing all these things, and he insists that he's paying attention to everything, but he's not. He's missing a lot of stuff because he's distracted. And you can call him out on it, and he's going to argue because that's what teenagers do. But likewise, if someone's trying to talk with you and you're sitting surfing something on your phone, uh, or playing a game, you're not actively listening, and your body language is appearing closed off, and that you are not paying attention at all. So, how can you resolve a conflict if you're not even part of the conversation? That you are so distracted that you can't put your phone down to finish the conversation. Slouching, number 7. This all goes back to my kindergarten childhood trauma of balancing a book on my head, shoulders back. You know, if you're slouched over, then that's just, it's just bad body language. The poor posture will hurt your back. Sit back and mean it. That's really going to help you right there. All right, non-existent or aggressive eye contact. Giving someone the evil eye will not make that person comfortable enough to talk with you. Uh, I'll be honest, I'm guilty of this at times. Someone's talking to me and I am not actively engaged in the conversation or in listening, period. And I might be giving them the, why are you talking to me, this, eye contact. And that I have to really be aware of that, and I got to be able to check myself and correct that and soften my glare and make myself more open. So, a lot of these things, everybody in the world has one of these things that they deal with. It's not just specific to you or specific to some person you're trying to point at. Everybody has these body language pitfalls that we have to be aware of, and we have to be able to fix them, you know, right then and there when the conversation's going on. And match your body language with what you are speaking. You should not pose aggressively if you're trying to sound empathetic. And likewise, you should not have an open and loving stance if you're yelling at a person. How confusing would that be if someone, their body language is showing that they, really care about you, but yet their words are cutting you down and really vicious and hurting your feelings? Your mind would just explode with that confusion. You really have to match your body language with the words that you're saying. Plus, also, if you're aligning up your body language in a softer stance, it can help lessen a blow that constructive criticism might have. If you're trying to talk to somebody and build them up, you want to take a kind, caring approach to it. But sometimes the words that you have to say might not be perceived as being supportive. So if you've got a nasty power pose going on and you're telling these things to that person, they're just going to get destroyed by that process. Rather, if you take a more submissive, empathetic approach to the criticism that you have for this person to help them improve their job, it's going to be more receptive. But the body language has to be there to support what you're saying. Does that make sense? Clear as mud. What does your face say about you? Happiness, confusion, sadness, surprise, anger, excitement. There's so many faces. I could have just filled up this PowerPoint with so many different facial expressions. Again, practicing in the mirror is a good start. Look in the mirror and what kind of facial expression do you have right now? Listening to my soft-spoken words and this nice monotone that I've got going on right now probably says you're tired. Probably wondering when this is going to end. And that's okay. Need to be aware of what your face says about you. I'm still working on it. At 40-some years old, guaranteed, I'm still working on it. You will be too. It's just one of those things that we have to constantly be aware of. And that's all part of life. But knowing and understanding what your communication, not just your spoken language, but your nonverbal language, what all that says about you, is really going to help you when it comes to resolving conflicts. That's all I have for you today. Please feel free to post any comments and questions that you have in the comment section, and I will answer them when I see them pop up. But keep practicing, keep working on it. Know that you are not alone. We are here to help through this process. Next week, next Tuesday at 10, we will talk about the 5 parts of conflict resolution and how we can resolve conflicts with our peers and coworkers. So I hope you enjoyed our presentation today. Tune in tomorrow is our Hump Day Trivia, and our theme is 80s movies. I'm so excited about it, and I bet you're all wondering what kind of twist I'm going to put in on it, because everything's got to have a twist. So come join us at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for Hump Day Trivia.